to the former Education Secretary Justine Greening, who joins us from her constituency in London. Ms Greening, good evening. Thanks very much for being with us on BBC News and indeed breaking off from the football to join us this evening. We'll try not to keep you away from too long.
I knew they'd score the minute I left.
Hopefully you'll get to see the replays during half-time. I know this is a subject you feel very strongly about, not least because you grew up in a working-class family. Dad was, I think, a steel worker originally. Am I right in saying that? I mean, based
not really miles from Mansfield either.
Right, so you know the area very well. I mean, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Robert Halfon was saying, if you've got the kind of social economic aspects the same, why is there still a difference in performance? Why are children from minority ethnic backgrounds, from working class backgrounds, outperforming their white counterparts? Do you think this report in any way helps us understand that question, unanswered question, any better?
Partly, but I think the reality is we need to get onto solutions. I think we all understand that a young person's development is not just what happens in schools, but it's also what happens outside of schools. And I think the challenge in too many communities is not only have schools not been good enough and not achieve good enough outcomes for their young people, but actually they've also had to confront problems that those children and young people are facing outside of schools. We have to get on to solutions. I think we've had a lot of Education Select Committee inquiries over the years, a lot increasingly talking rightly about how white working class children are not getting good enough grades. And I think one of the things I really focused on whilst I was at education, because this matters to me so much on a very personal level, was putting in place something we called opportunity areas. And they did exactly what I was just talking about. Not only did they work inside schools, working with teachers and helping them to improve education, they also crucially did work outside schools. So they did tackle some of those issues that do affect young people. And that can be the extent to which parents are able to support development. That can be the extent to which local businesses are giving work experience and raising aspirations. It could also be joining up, for example, with the NHS. And one of the opportunity areas in Bradford, for example, made sure that local children had proper eye tests. It turned out that several hundred didn't have the right glasses prescriptions. And that was one of the reasons why literacy was poor. So I think the inquiry report really doesn't add a huge amount, I think, to what we already knew and understood the problems to be. What we really now need to do for these communities is move off debating the issues and get on to solutions and rolling out more opportunity areas in more of those communities, not just in the north, but also, as the report showed, communities in places like Essex, East Sussex, Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire, Worcestershire, all places highlighted actually as having really challenging education systems for young people.
I'm going to declare an interest here. I went to a comprehensive in an unemployment black spot in the West Country. And I take exactly the point you're making about there's a danger of trying to that people kind of just characterise particular areas and don't talk about solutions. One solution you've talked about is, in a sense, an inspirational one rather than necessarily an aspirational one, in either showing people examples. And you said, I think I'm right in saying in a former interview, you grew up, you didn't really know business people, you didn't know lawyers. How important is that? And how do you build the links then with, say, businesses or the professions to those areas where they're not already represented?
So I think having a sense of what opportunity looks like really matters. It's really hard for young people to aim for careers that they just don't even know exist, let alone what they actually mean. I've always said I would never have considered law because I had never met a lawyer growing up in Rotherham. I'd have loved to start my own business, but I didn't even know anyone who was running a business, let alone anyone who'd set one up from scratch. So what I've been doing since I left the DFE is actually working on a campaign called the Social Mobility Pledge, which is all about mobilising businesses around the country to really play much more of a role on helping young people not only understand what careers are like by going into schools, but also practically giving them work experience. And we know what a big difference that makes for young people's development on problem solving, working in teams, all sorts of things. And with all of these amazing businesses and also with some incredible universities that are really plugged into local communities, We've now designed what we've called the levelling up goals, and they are breaking down these levelling up challenges into 14 clear goals. Some of those are education, but what they show us, some are about connecting young people up with high quality jobs and having more high quality jobs in local communities so young people can really see what's going on. And we've had a big debate today about why some communities have lower aspirations and perhaps why more ethnic minority communities in cities have higher aspirations and are doing better at school. I think part of that is just there is more opportunity on the doorstep for young people to see and to really aim at. And the challenge in a place like London, where I'm sat right now, is how do you connect those young people when they come out of that education system that is doing better for them with those amazing careers that are on the doorstep? And that's the problem we have here. But everywhere in the country faces a different levelling up challenge. And I think, as the Select Committee said today, for many communities, that really does still start with fixing education.
And does that simple question, there probably isn't a simple answer, but in your judgment, does that mean we need to commit more resources as a country to education?
I think the bottom line is yes, it does. And if we want to have better outcomes, that will mean more investment. But it's investment that will generate a return in the future through higher skilled young people who can really drive the economy forward. But that's not the only part of the solution. We have to have many more businesses stepping up to the plate, spreading opportunities into those communities that don't have enough. And we really have to line them up with some amazing charities and efforts in communities around the country that are also supporting our young people to do better. So it really is about this partnership between smart policy, more opportunity areas that are place-based, great companies that can really talk about careers and bring them alive, and then fantastic efforts in local communities that can tailor all of that effort to their particular priorities in their communities and really bring it alive at a local level and get everybody behind a push to improve education outcomes.
Justine Greening, thank you very much.
Thank you.